Serbian air defense radars detected the cruise missiles 3 minutes before impact, enough time to activate air raid sirens, scramble interceptors, and prepare electronic warfare systems, but not enough time to evacuate the targets or relocate mobile assets. This wasn't 1999. This wasn't F-117 stealth bombers dropping laser-guided bombs against a nation with obsolete Soviet air defenses and no ability to respond. This was a war game scenario where Serbian military planners tested whether 25 years of systematic preparation, Russian air defense technology, and lessons written in the blood of 78 days of bombing could actually stop NATO from achieving air superiority. And the results shocked even the officers running the simulation. Because Serbia doesn't need to win an air war against NATO, Serbia just needs to survive long enough to make the political costs of continuing the bombing unbearable. Welcome to Doctrine of War, where we analyze the military realities that determine whether small nations can resist great power coercion. The question of whether Serbia could survive another NATO bombing campaign isn't academic speculation. It's a scenario that Serbian military planners prepare for constantly and that NATO strategists must account for in any Balkans contingency planning. Today, we're conducting a comprehensive assessment of Serbian air defense capabilities, examining what's changed since 1999, and analyzing whether modern Serbian forces could deny NATO the easy air superiority that defined Operation Allied Force. And what you're about to discover is that the lessons Serbia learned in 1999, combined with Russian and Chinese military technology acquired since then, have created defensive capabilities that would make a second NATO air campaign far bloodier, far longer, and far less certain of success than the first. What changed since 1999? Serbian air defense evolution. To understand whether Serbia could survive another NATO bombing campaign, you first need to understand exactly what happened in 1999 and what lessons Serbian military drew from that experience. Operation Allied Force lasted 78 days, involved over 38,000 NATO combat sorties, and dropped approximately 23,000 bombs and missiles on Serbian and Yugoslav targets. NATO achieved near total air superiority, flying missions during daylight with minimal losses while systematically destroying Serbian military infrastructure, government facilities, and dual-use civilian targets. Serbia shot down only 2 NATO aircraft, definitively an F-117 stealth fighter and an F-16, and damaged several others, but fundamentally couldn't prevent NATO aircraft from operating almost at will over Serbian territory. But here's what NATO assessments after the war revealed, and what Serbian military learned from that experience. Operation Allied Force was far less effective than initial reports suggested. NATO claimed massive destruction of Serbian armor, artillery, and military vehicles in Kosovo. Post-war assessments revealed that most Serbian forces survived intact, having dispersed, camouflaged, and deployed decoys that NATO aircraft attacked instead of real targets. Serbian air defenses, while unable to prevent NATO air operations, survived the campaign largely intact through mobility, deception, and disciplined electromagnetic emissions control. And Serbian command and control, despite heavy bombing, remained functional enough to coordinate military operations throughout the campaign. NATO won the air war, and Serbia eventually capitulated, but the military effects were far less decisive than NATO claimed during the campaign. The lessons Serbian military drew from this experience shaped every aspect of air defense development over the following quarter century. First lesson: mobility and deception matter more than raw power fire. Serbian air defense doctrine emphasizes constant movement of systems, extensive use of decoys and false positions, and operating radars only when necessary to avoid anti-radiation missiles. Second lesson: integrated air defense networks survive better than individual systems. Modern Serbian air defense isn't about scattered and dependent batteries, but about networked systems where destruction of individual radars or missile launchers doesn't collapse the entire defense. Third lesson: you can't prevent all NATO strikes, so the goal is surviving them while inflicting enough losses to create political costs that undermine alliance unity and public support for continued bombing. The hardware modernization reflects these doctrinal lessons. Serbia has systematically acquired modern air defense systems specifically designed to counter the technologies and tactics NATO used in 1999. The Panzer S-1 short-range air defense system combines surface-to-air missiles with rapid-fire cannons, creating layered defense against aircraft, cruise missiles, and precision-guided munitions. These systems are designed specifically to protect high-value assets like long-range SAM batteries from the anti-radar missiles and standoff weapons that NATO used to suppress Serbian air defenses in 1999. Russian-supplied systems use modern digital technology, frequency-hopping radars, and electronic warfare capabilities that make them far harder to jam or deceive than the analog Soviet-era systems Serbia operated in 1999. The 125 Neva air defense systems that famously shot down the F-117 in 1999 have been extensively modernized, with new radars, digital fire control, and updated missiles that extend range and improve accuracy. But more significantly, Serbia has acquired or is pursuing acquisition of far more capable systems. Reports suggest Serbian interest in S-300 or even S-400 long-range air defense systems from Russia, systems that can engage aircraft at ranges exceeding 200 kilometers and altitudes up to 30 kilometers, creating genuine anti-access zones that NATO aircraft would struggle to penetrate without significant losses. Even if Serbia doesn't acquire the most advanced Russian systems, the combination of modernized legacy systems with newer Panzer units creates layered defense far more formidable than what existed in 1999. The radar network has been completely rebuilt with modern systems that can detect stealth aircraft far more effectively than 1990s technology. While fifth-generation stealth fighters like F-35s remain difficult to detect and track, they're not invisible. Modern radars operating at specific frequencies can detect stealth aircraft at operationally significant ranges. Serbia has invested in low-frequency early warning radars, modern fire control radars, and passive detection systems that locate aircraft by detecting their own radar emissions, rather than relying on active radar that reveals the radar's location. This comprehensive sensor network provides the detection and tracking necessary for effective air defense in ways that 1990-era systems simply couldn't achieve. The electronic warfare capabilities represent another critical upgrade. Modern Serbian forces can jam GPS signals, disrupt NATO communications, and employ electronic warfare against precision-guided weapons that depend on electronic guidance. While NATO possesses sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities of its own, the mere presence of effective Serbian electronic warfare creates uncertainty and complexity that reduces NATO operational effectiveness. Pilots who can't rely on GPS must navigate differently. Communication disruption complicates command and control, and weapons that can be jammed or spoofed force NATO to use more expensive alternatives or conduct missions differently. If you're beginning to understand why Serbian military confidence isn't just bravado, why Serbian officers genuinely believe they could impose far higher costs on NATO than in 1999, you're seeing the analysis that Doctrine of War delivers. We examine not just what militaries claim, but what they've actually built and why those capabilities matter. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're about to analyze specific scenarios for how modern Serbian air defense would actually perform against NATO air operations, and whether survival is realistic or just nationalist fantasy. The command and control infrastructure has been hardened and dispersed specifically to survive sustained air attacks. Serbian military learned in 1999 that centralized command facilities become priority targets that, when destroyed, create cascading failures across the entire military. Modern Serbian command structures emphasize redundancy, multiple command posts that can assume control if primary facilities are destroyed, communication systems with multiple backup channels, and operational autonomy for subordinate commanders who can continue operations even if higher headquarters are destroyed. The goal isn't preventing damage, it's ensuring that damage doesn't create military paralysis. The air defense strategy explicitly recognizes that Serbia cannot achieve air superiority against NATO, and doesn't need to. The goal is denying NATO the easy, low-cost air superiority that allows sustained operations without significant losses. If Serbian air defense can shoot down even a small percentage of NATO aircraft, say 2 to 3% loss rates per sortie, the cumulative losses over a sustained campaign become politically unsustainable.